Welcome to the EMOlition Derby podcast. I'm your host, Alessandro, and I'm a huge music nerd. I've been playing in bands for well over a decade, but have since gone on to become a music journalist working for several notable outlets, including alternative press. As a journalist, I cover a wide range of stories within music, culture, fashion, and just about everything else. However, I would say that first and foremost, I'm an alternative and emo historian and want to use this podcast as a means to connect with artists, musicians, and creatives to get the answers that I've always wanted and have an open forum to discuss fascinating stories within our special underground community. We release one episode per week that will either be long-form interviews with myself and a host of brilliant artists and figures from prominent acts across a wide range of genres, as well as other episodes where I sit down with my closest friends and co-producers, Joe Giordano and Ethan Fuller, to have what we call roundtable discussions. For those episodes, expect nerdy deep dives on music, as well as our fair share of hot takes and fiery debates. Whether we are sitting down with your favorite artists or just having fun between the three of us, EMOlition Derby is a must-listen podcast for all things alternative, emo, and beyond. For today's episode, I am so fucking excited to have on a very awesome guy, a very awesome friend, a very awesome musician, songwriter, producer, music manager, fucking scene legend. It's none other than Andrew Torres of the Scene Aesthetic, Danger Radio, Shallowdiver, and a bunch of other amazing shit. Andrew is the real fucking deal. He's from the north end of Seattle, pretty close to where myself, Joe, and Ethan, my co-hosts and producers, also grew up. And, it was a really beautiful thing having Andrew on this show. I definitely had to punish Andrew at this episode a bit because his first band, the Scene Aesthetic, well, not his first band was Danger Radio, but his band, Scene Aesthetic, was probably my MySpace song, in particular, the Beauty and the Breakdown song, was probably my MySpace song for probably a year straight. And his music has always meant a lot to me, whether that be with the Scene Aesthetic and Danger Radio. And Andrew really had a very whirlwind career, a lot of success, a lot of highs. There was definitely some lows, but Andrew is still such a positive and uplifting guy and just in it for all the right reasons. And, with this conversation, we just got to sort of get a retrospective on how he got into music, where he's from, transitioning from the Scene Aesthetic to Danger Radio to everything in between, the breakups of those bands, the hiatuses, the possibilities of new music or shows, all kinds of different stuff. But, Andrew also is doing, like I said, this amazing, amazing new project called Shallowdiver. It's kind of got a throwback, emo and post-hardcore sound. I'd say, it kind of sounds like Armor for Sleep or like Senses Fail or even like parts of like Under Oath. But it's done in such a modern and fresh sense, and I absolutely fucking love it. They have a couple singles out right now, and in particular, they have a great song called Benchwarmer that is just fucking amazing, as well as a song called Leap Year. And I absolutely love Andrew. I feel like I could just talk in circles about how amazing this person is, but I just want to jump right into this conversation. So without any further ado, let's jump into my conversation with Andrew Torres of the Scene Aesthetic, Danger Radio, and Shallowdiver. This is EMOlition Derby. Let's go. I'm 28, but I feel like I'm going on like 58, like at this point. Like it's bad.
Yeah, I'm exactly the same way. I feel like there was a time a while, it was probably about a year ago, and I was just vacuuming and just hanging out, had music blasted, and all of a sudden I just like moved wrong and I pulled a muscle in my back, and I swear, dude, it hurt for months. It hurt so bad that I ended up going to the chiropractor for the first time ever. I'd never been to a chiropractor, but I was like, I don't know what else to do. And it's funny when I was telling people, they're like, oh my gosh, what happened? Like, how did you hurt yourself? I was like, oh yeah, I was vacuuming.
Oh my God, I'm so sorry.
Just the saddest thing. I used to skateboard a bunch, and I still snowboard every once in a while, but I feel like there are definitely things that I would have gladly done in high school without even thinking twice about it, that I'm just like, oh, that looks like I could get hurt.
Well, that's actually my first question before we jump into the real part of the podcast. What was your skate like spot in Seattle? Like, what was like your area?
You know what? A bunch of us, like a bunch of the majority of the guys that were in Danger Radio, we would all go to Lindale Skate Park in Edmonds.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, dude, just kind of right there, and then just kind of like, just be out and about. There was like a loading dock, I think in like elementary school too, that we would go to. That was like right next to Top Foods, or actually it was the Top Foods loading dock, and we'd just skate there too until we'd get kicked out.
I have a lot of good memories of skating in Edmonds as well, like going with my friends, and I always looked this old in high school. So like we would go to like it's like the fucking it's where like this like convenience store is, but it's like an old school looking building, and I forget where it is. It's like kind of near I don't know. It's like near sort of like where like the McDonald's is and like Robin Hood Lanes or whatever. Like, you know what I'm talking about? And I would just go in there and get cigarettes for my friends when we were like 14 years old, and just not even inhale cigarettes, just like fucking riding our little skateboards and just puffing on them. Like it was
Totally know. Yeah, I know exactly. There's that QFC that's right there, and then the McDonald's across the street, and then Robin Hood Lanes is kind of across from that. Dude, I used to hang out over there a lot.
Robin Hood Lanes for life. Well, let's jump into it, because I just feel like we have so much cool shit to talk about. So I'm just gonna, just do a quick little intro here. But I'm joined with Andrew de Torres, singer songwriter, known for many different projects, ranging from the Scene Aesthetic, Danger Radio, now Shallowdiver, now Secret Twin.
Yeah, just got a lot of just so much music.
Very prolific, very musically diverse, I'll have to say. And I'm just gonna go out here, not to stroke your ego too much, but a bit of a pioneer, I think, in my opinion. Very much. 100%. And I'll argue the pioneer thing when we get to a certain part, but just right off the bat, just thank you so much for jumping on. Like we were chatting before we hit record, we've been wanting to do this for a while, and I think you haven't done any podcasts really, like, right? This is your first?
Yeah, this is my first time. So yeah, thank you for, taking my podcast virginity from me. It's one of those things that I am such an awkward person. So when you asked me to do this, I was just like, man, is this going to be, am I going to just put him through hell? Like, a terrible thing I've ever done.
No, that's my job, dude. Oh,
no, but it's perfect. I'm really happy to do it. It seems really fun. And obviously, I feel like there was just an instant comfort knowing that we both grew up in the same area. And I was like, I feel like we could connect on some things. So
I think there's going to be a lot to connect on. Yes. So, I'm curious, I want to start kind of chronologically. So Edmonds, born and raised, like Seattle area, like North Seattle.
So I was actually born in San Juan, Puerto Rico.
Hell yeah.
And I still have a lot of family over there. I was there until, probably I was probably like 5 or 6 years old when we moved to Seattle. My mom took a job at Motorola, and we moved around a little bit, but mostly stayed in the Edmonds, Linwood, Mount Lake Terrace area. We were in Bothell for a little while as well, like when we first moved. But yeah, for the most part, I grew up, in Edmonds, went to Edmonds Woodway High School, and did all the fun Edmonds things, whatever those are.
So do you remember, you moved when you were 5, but do you have those memories from being in Puerto Rico and everything, still? And did you go back a lot and stuff?
Yeah. We went back every Christmas. My family loves to get together. Any opportunity to drink and party, they're all for it. So yeah, we would go back every single Christmas while I was growing up, until it was until I was old enough to buy my own plane tickets. And then by then I was like touring and everything. So I don't get to go back as much as I would like to, but yeah, I definitely have a lot of really fond memories from back then.
And like, so were you kind of like from a musical family, like growing up to a degree, or did you kind of discover this when you came like just to Seattle proper and just sort of discovered it there? Like,
yeah, I mean, both my parents play guitar. I wouldn't necessarily say that they're not musical, but they're not musicians. So, like a lot of, my dad would, sit and play John Denver songs for me, and my mom would, play Beatles songs and things. And, so I was definitely like around a lot of music growing up, but I didn't really, I didn't really discover that I hate saying this, like that I was musical, because there's so many other better musicians than me.
Oh, come on.
But yeah, I started playing trumpet in fourth grade, and that kind of helped me develop, a love and respect for musicianship and playing, and carried that out throughout high school and did jazz band and marching band and all that stuff. And then right around, I guess right around like seventh or probably right around seventh grade, was when I was getting really into, like Blink-182 and Third Eye Blind and like Semisonic and all of this stuff. And I just kind of told my mom, I was like, hey, I want a guitar. And from there, it was just kind of this thing that evolved. I would sit on, I learned a couple chords, and then from there, started learning how to use tabs, and I feel like after that, I couldn't be stopped. I was like, just on my computer, on my family computer. Cause back then, like every like household only had like one computer. It was in the living room.
Oh yeah.
And I would just sit there and like look up tabs and sit and play and like, guitar in my living room for hours.
Were you on like ultimate guitar tabs? Like, yeah.
Yeah, before now you have to have like a subscription, like they charge you, but back
I know, dude. It's insane. It's a racket.
I know, dude. I felt the same way. I was just like, I opened it up not even that long ago and was just like, you want me to pay it $20 a year for this? I'm like, it's worth it. But yeah, man. It was so yeah. Not just to go back to that, not super musical family, but not they were definitely very encouraging, supportive, were there like, to help me out whenever I needed.
That's wild. I feel like, I feel like I had a very similar kind of experience growing up too. Like, my parents both played music. My dad's a guitar collector and like tons of vintage guitars and shit, and would like teach me Weezer songs and stuff like that on guitar. And I actually like, got into emo hardcore at a very young age, but in high school did the jazz band, did marching band, did all of that. And it was like really funny because I couldn't read music. So I would like play guitar like I was like in Thursday or something like that. But it was in a jazz band. Like it was bad, dude. It was awful. But it was good though. I love jazz band. Did you enjoy playing jazz?
Dude, I honestly really loved it. I loved it a lot. We did a lot of festivals and we got to travel a bit for that. And we would every single year we do like this big band dance thing. And it was honestly a really great time, a good learning experience. I feel like you learn a lot of discipline through just, having to go through that and how to work together, how to listen to each other. So yeah, I really enjoyed it a lot. So I was very band geeky.
Well, you guys had a really good music department there too, because our schools, like later, obviously we went to high school at very different times, but like the high schools would all converge for like certain different jazz festivals. Like I'm sure like you probably were like with Roosevelt and like, I don't know, like Garfield or something like that. Maybe, I don't know.
Yeah, but they were so much better than us.
Well, Garfield had a leg up because like Quincy Jones, I guess, like donated to that music department. So like they had all the good shit. Like,
yeah, no, they really did, man. Yeah. Roosevelt and Garfield, I feel like are on just like a completely different level. But yeah, dude, really, really fun. I had a great time.
That's so cool. And so like in high school, I'm imagining too, like you're starting to play in bands. And I've always been curious, like, Danger Radio came first before Scene Aesthetic, correct? So was that kind of, did you meet the guys like in high school and everything?
So I met the first person in Danger Radio that I started playing music with was Nico, our drummer. Mm-hmm. And so that was in 8th grade, we started playing music together. And it was just kind of this random thing. He was like a grade below me, but he was in jazz band. He had just moved from Finland.
Whoa.
To the United States. And I honestly, I can't be 100% positive, but I'm fairly certain the first thing I ever said to him was, "Do you want to play in the talent show with me?"
What were you playing?
We literally we played Adam's song.
Nice.
Which I think about now, and I'm like, could I even wrap my head around what that song, like how heavy that song is?
No, probably not.
Like, oh, I love Blink-182. This song's awesome. Let's play it. But at the talent show, like, we named our band A Buck Short, obviously. Very
cool.
A2 cover band.
That's a good band name. That's actually really good. That's pretty good.
I know, man. I'm really, sometimes I look back at those days and I'm like, man, I'm impressed with myself. I was, pretty smart from a young age. I feel like that's always the hardest part, but my favorite challenge.
Yeah.
But yeah, man. And then like Marvin, who I'm doing the Shallowdiver project with, he was also in Blink-182, played bass, and I've known Marvin since like second or third grade. So we've known each other for a long time. And honestly, it was one of those things where he's also a drummer, a really, really good drummer. But we already had a drummer. So he just kind of came in and was just like, well, I mean, I want to be in this band. I'm going to learn how to play bass. And we were just like, okay. And dude, he just went out and got his parents to like get him a bass and just started going. Like he had never played bass before, but it was just like, just went for it. So
let me guess. Did he go to the what's the guitar store up in Edmonds that like everyone loses their mind over?
Oh, I can't remember.
But you know what I'm talking about, right?
I definitely know what you're talking about. I can't remember what it's called. But yeah, I remember like he just bought, this, just like a starter Ibanez bass. It looked like he should have been in like some crazy ass metal band, and just probably a little tiny practice amp. And yeah, we just went for it, dude.
Off to the races. So did you guys like start playing shows like as Danger Radio in high school at some point? And like, were you playing kind of like, I can only imagine like all the greats like Ground Zero and like all that stuff, like the Firehouse, all that shit. Like, when did this start?
Dude, so we originally started, when we decided to start playing shows, our first official name was Chasing Tomorrow. So that was like the first, and it was like, I think we were chasing tomorrow for maybe like not very long. I'd probably say 2 years at the most, until some metal band on mp3.com like hit us with like a cease and desist because they had like gone the full way to like copyright their name, and we're just like, you little shitheads, you got to change your name. We were like, okay.
Do we know where they're at now?
Oh, I have no idea. I wish there was a way to look it up.
They probably signed a Trust Kill or something. It sounds like a Trust Kill band name for sure.
But yeah, man. So we ended up changing our name and started playing like more shows. But I mean, like originally, it was a lot of VFW halls. We played like this Grange Hall in Marysville, and this place. Literally, it's called Edmonds Rock and Gem Club, and it is full of rocks and gems. Like somebody would rent it out for like $150. They'd bring in a PA, and we would just literally have a show in there. And it's really crazy, man, because I was just talking to one of the dudes from Hidden in Plainview, and like the first time that I'd ever met those guys, they were also playing Edmonds Rock and Gem Club.
That's so sick. Oh my God.
Like it's like the shittiest place, but yeah, it's one of those weird things. I mean, I feel like a lot of our shows back then were just super DIY, and then we started playing more I use this term loosely, legit venues like Ground Zero and Kirkland Teen Center, and I mean like Firehouse is a legit venue. That place is actually really awesome.
That's like beyond a legit, like that's actually like a professional music venue, but that kids could just play at all the time. It was so sick.
I love that place, man. I really, really do. And I had my most memorable fun shows are at Ground Zero.
Same. 100%, dude. Like, so I'm kind of curious. So like you're coming up at that time and I'm trying to think like what year would this be, like your high school era, I guess? Like what were like the pivotal years, like when you were really starting to play shows? Like what years would that have been?
So yeah, the most, yeah, so it would have been from like 2001 probably to 2005. We're definitely kind of that starting point where we were just like, oh, like we really love this and we could do this. And I was in charge of all the booking stuff. So, I would be, in contact with Malia at Ground Zero and like the people that booked Redmond Firehouse and just harassing them nonstop, putting together, packages with This Providence and all the other, and like Forgive Durden and all the other bands, and just kind of, basically just trading off headline, like, well, quote unquote, like headline stuff and just kind of going for it. I mean, and then from there, probably around like 2004 or probably 2003, 2004, I started reaching out to, like El Corazon and like all of like those other venues. And just honestly, I was a very relentless young person. I would just hit up all of the promoters and just find shows, with like bands that I loved, and just hit up the booking agents directly. Just be like, dude, if you give me like 75 physical tickets, I will go out and sell them if you give me this show.
Yeah.
You give me like literally just tell me what I got to do. I will walk around my high school. I will sell all of these tickets. And dude, we got to play with a lot of really cool bands back then. I think I was telling you about this a while ago, but we played with Boys Night Out and Saosin when they came through. Back then, that was when Anthony Green was in the band still. Well, I guess he is back in now, but back then in the early years.
Yeah.
We played with Copeland, The Format, Emery. Just, dude, like Story of the Year, just tons and tons of really great bands. And I think just a lot of it was just me being a very relentless person.
That's so amazing. Like, and that's so important. Like, I love hearing those stories of like young people, like being the hustlers, essentially just being like, I want to play some fucking shows. Nobody's going to make it happen for me but myself, and like, that's so cool. Like, and so like, while this is happening, I'm imagining like you're getting later in your high school years, like things are picking up, you're playing some cool shows. Was there a thought in your mind like, okay, this is what I'm going to do entirely for the rest of my life? I don't know if you were thinking about college. I don't know if you did go to college after this or everything, but like, what was sort of your mindset like towards the end of high school? Like, what were you feeling?
Dude, that is a very good question. So I actually dropped out of high school.
Okay.
My like towards the end of my, I guess, right before my junior year. And it had nothing to do with, me, because I was so young. Like my parents weren't like, oh, you can go pursue this. And I actually ended up going to Shoreline Community College and finishing out my credits there and started digital audio engineering classes and all of that stuff. But yeah, man, honestly, around that same time, I think we played a couple shows and just something really connected. And I was, it just, nothing else really mattered. Like this was kind of it. And we were going to just do whatever it took to figure it out. I mean, I honestly, I really truly do remember that moment, like that aha moment. And it was at Ground Zero and they were trying to kick us out of the venue. We had one song left and they literally, dude, they turned off the mic and we were just like, dude, fuck it. Like, let's play the song still. And there were like, it was completely packed in there. There were kids like falling on the stage. And they just kind of made up for the fact that I couldn't really sing because everybody else was singing so loud. so we just kind of went through it. And I think after that, I was just like, dude, that was the craziest thing I've ever experienced in my entire life. And I don't know, ever since, I was probably 17 years old, and that was just kind of it. I just knew it. I was like, I have to make this work.
That is so amazing. And for the listeners, when they're going to be listening to this, like, for context, Ground Zero was a teen center in downtown Bellevue, really close to Main Street, I believe, pretty close, right across from the mall. And it was arguably, I think, the coolest place to see live music in the Western Washington area. I mean, it's, yes, Seattle, but I think the East, when I think of like those days, I think of the East Side. Like, I think of Ground Zero, K-Tub, and Firehouse, and it was the best. And I got into it at kind of the tail end a little bit. Like, I started playing shows at Ground Zero in 2008. I want to say was my first show there. And then actually played the second Ground Zero. They closed that one. And it was really sad, and everybody was really depressed about it. And then they did reopen it in like Sammamish, and it was not the same, but still awesome that they reopened it. But I think that's also closed. Yeah, and of course, I'm sure it hasn't existed probably for like 10 years now. It's very sad, but it's so like just kind of like going to that time. So you graduate, I guess not graduate, but like you're in Shoreline, you're doing your thing. You start the scene aesthetic, I'm imagining. Like, you meet your friend Eric. Is that his name, right?
Yeah.
So tell me about that.
Dude, that was really crazy. Basically what happened is I got invited to a Christmas party by Eric's cousin, and Eric just ended up coming. That night, I didn't have a car back then. I mean, honestly, I didn't have a car until I moved to Nashville, because I just took the bus everywhere in Seattle. So I lived most of my life without a car.
That's tough in Seattle. I respect that.
Oh yeah, I was like, dude, I'll take the bus. It's cool. But yeah, man, it was super crazy. So we went to this Christmas party. It was really terrible. Eric and I were just like, dude, this is really lame. Like, and I asked him if he'll drive me home. We start, we stop to get gas, and his car breaks down.
Oh no.
And we were stuck at the gas station for so long. And I vividly remember we were just like sitting in the car. We were literally listening to Hanson, just like singing super loud and just hanging out, having a good time. We ended up going back to his place. And that very night, we wrote Beauty and the Breakdown.
Are you fucking kidding me? First day meeting each other.
Yeah, it was like the first day we met. We just went back to his place, and I was like, dude, you want to write a song? He had never written a song before. Eric had never done anything musical in his entire life. And we just wrote Beauty and the Breakdown, recorded it, like, I think that night, kind of, because Eric had borrowed our friends like M-Box, because back then, like, recording was super hard to do well. We just, that was the very first thing we ever did.
I have chills right now, like, for a bunch of different reasons. So you're telling me, so for the listeners, Beauty and the Breakdown was, in my opinion, kind of a cultural phenomenon for the scene at the time. And it truly was. And I think why another instance of you being a pioneer, even when you, from what it sounds like, weren't even attempting to pioneer anything there. But what you did is you recorded a song like that, and it went viral on the internet in a time way before what social media is now. And it's a song that has traveled very far. Like, I cannot tell you, I lived in Boston at one point, and we'd pull out the acoustic guitars at a party, and we'd play transit songs, we'd play Taking Back Sunday songs, then we'd play Beauty and the Breakdown. Every single person in that room would be singing along to Beauty and the Breakdown. I meet my now girlfriend. First time we're hanging out. First night, we put on some music. Like, what do you like? I'm like, remember Scene Aesthetic. Like, it is you can't meet somebody who hasn't heard this song, who loves like this genre of music. And you're telling me that you wrote it just the first day meeting your friend Eric, the car breaks down. You guys go inside in a house, I don't know, probably in North Seattle, and just capture magic. Like, that's insane.
It was really something else, man. It just was when I think about it, it just really was like the craziest thing. Yeah, it was just the first night we met. Like, I had heard Eric singing in the car and was just like, yeah, dude, let's write a song. And now that's just what ended up coming out. And dude, there's no way that I could have ever anticipated that it was going to turn into what it did. I mean, we put up the song and immediately it just started doing well.
Was it pure volume?
No, it was MySpace.
So it was started strictly on MySpace. Okay.
Yeah, we just started, strictly on MySpace. I have it's so funny because I don't want to like ever discredit like what happened, but I feel like a lot of music is just like a little bit of the right place, the right time, mixed with like a couple different like things. Like you're just kind of throwing stuff into a pot together, and then if it all works out to be like the perfect timing of when that should happen, it just kind of does. And I feel like in a lot of ways that is what happened. We put up the song on MySpace. At the time, MySpace didn't have a player that you could put on your profile, which is like what they ended up implementing maybe like a year into like this, like our song being out. So people were literally using HTML to put it on their profile, and every time that you would refresh somebody's page or go to your friend's page, it would count as a stream. So it was like this weird kind of thing where I think so many kids were gravitating towards the song, which was such a beautiful thing. And then on top of that, just the way that people were doing it on MySpace and like sharing the song was also really working in our favor to get it out to more people. So it's just, so we were like, the number one unsigned band on MySpace for, dude, years.
Yeah. And this is pre like, obviously streaming. So like if SoundScan existed for what was going on in MySpace, like Viewing the Breakdown would probably be like a platinum selling single. Like what did she say? Like, or at least like gold, like maybe gold. But like, right? Like it would have to be like in that range, like maybe 500,000 to $1 million at that point, maybe.
We were accruing at the height of everything, like at least 1 million streams a day.
1 million a day?
Yeah, I think like at the very height of what we were doing, we were hitting like millions and millions of streams a month. Like that song was just going absolutely crazy. And dude, like there were a lot of bands that, like Never Shout Never is like a similar thing, man. Like, when I had like his profile sometimes and just be like, dude, you just did like 3 million plays today. Like it's just like, so it was just one of those things that, I look back at that time and I was like, oh my gosh, dude, if we were, if SoundScan was doing that, I might have like a plaque on my wall, or maybe back then I wouldn't have bought a house because I was stupid. But, if we were getting paid for that stuff, it'd be like, oh, this is like a very sustainable way to live. But it was like all free. So there was no way to monetize it.
God damn it. You could have retired off this song, Andrew. You could have retired off this one song, man.
It's such a funny thing to think about. Because, it's, when you listen to it, like it sounds terrible.
No, it doesn't. No, it does not.
Like, it was just the most like janky record. We were recording vocals in a bathroom. But there's something beautiful about it too. When like some of my favorite albums sound like doo-doo, but
no, I disagree. I'm sorry to cut you off there, but I think a big thing from that era, especially like in the Seattle emo, whatever you want to call it, scene, there was that really raw lo-fi production. And I think if you had recorded that song with like Matt Squire or John Feldman, I don't think it would have felt the same way as it did, especially after the story you've just now told me of how it was created. that might be why people resonated to a degree, because it sounded like, real, like, like.
No, and we've tried over the years to, record with, bigger producers and things like that. I think over the course of our career, and I think we realized immediately that, and I think a lot of artists do this too, where there's like a natural progression. They're just like, well, we want to make something really big and all this stuff. And then but then your fans are always like, but we kind of like you for this.
Do you remember when like Victory Records would like put out the demo of like a song that was going to come out? Like I remember it was like Silverstein, Smile in Your Sleep, and they'd put out like the demo. And then like 3 months later, the studio version would come out. And I will never forget being that kid like on like MySpace being like, I like the demo more. Like, like it's like demo sounds horrible, but like
I did the same thing, man. I remember like the first time I heard Grand Theft Autumn, and it was like a demo version on Pure Volume, and I was just like, oh my gosh, like this Fall Out Boy song is incredible. This band is awesome. And when I heard it's really funny because I love that record so much, like front to back. Take This to Your Grave is definitely one of my favorite albums of all time.
Yeah.
But at the time, just being, 16 or 15 and super stubborn, you're always just like, man, like it lost something. Now I look back and I'm just like, oh no, this shorter version definitely sounds way better.
For sure. Okay, so Beauty and the Breakdown, it's a multi-platinum single at the time. You were just churning out money left and right. I say this joking, but you're millions of streams coming in every day. Probably 1 million are coming in from probably me and my friends as well, too, just putting it on our profile songs. And that's happening. And if I remember correctly, and I remember like watching primitive YouTube, I think I can actually, this is gonna maybe blow your mind. I'm gonna torture you a little bit right here. But like right when YouTube like first came out, like everyone's like first memory, like I had this conversation with somebody recently. It's like, what's the first thing you remember watching on YouTube? And I think the first thing I ever watched on YouTube was the video for Beauty and the Breakdown. First video my first memory of using YouTube. And then Love by the Way of Hollywood by Formathony from that time. Remember that? That was a fucking great song.
Oh, yeah.
Those are the two things. And I remember watching a lot of like videos of you guys performing the songs like together and stuff like that. And just being like, and it felt like as a young kid, because I started like playing songs and stuff and writing songs, like, okay, this could be possible, and seeing like what you guys were doing. And then all this hype is happening, and you guys actually had to take a hiatus, if I understand correct, right? Like Eric went and did like missionary work, right? Like, so tell me about that. What did this feel like right at the height of it?
Dude, it felt really crazy, man. I mean, it was one of those things where we had done a couple headline tours, which were, I mean, especially now, like that I work in the music industry, I think about, just the fact that our first tour ever was a headline tour. And, there were at least like, I think we were playing 400, 500, 600 cap rooms, and a lot of them were sold out, which is like really, when I think about that now, I'm like, dude, that is insane. And I mean, also, I just wish there was a way for artists to reach fans in that same kind of way. Because yeah, man, MySpace was just such a powerful tool. But yeah, man, so, we had done a couple of these headline tours, and then Eric was a part of the Mormon church. And yeah, he was just like, I have to go do my mission. I'm going to be gone for 2 years. And yeah, I think at the time I was just like, oh my gosh, dude, this is going to be so crazy because, we've got this crazy opportunity to do this right now. Like, we were like, there were like labels flying out.
I was going to ask that. What labels came out?
So the first people we met with were somebody at Virgin Records. We also met with Glassnote. That was before. I don't even know if Glassnote had signed anybody. I don't think they had even. I think Secondhand Serenade ended up being the first artist they might have signed back then, if I remember. But yeah, the guy that started Glassnote came out and saw us play in Texas. We had some people from Epic come out. Yeah, just a lot of interest. from all over. And yeah, but he was just really adamant about it. So we were just like, well, yeah, I mean, you got to do what you got to do. So he left to go do that. And after he was gone, I kind of I'd always been doing Danger Radio simultaneously. Like when we did those 2 Synesthetic tours, Danger Radio came out, so I was doing 2 sets every single night.
Whoa.
And then when Eric left, I just did Danger Radio full time.
So yeah, that's a perfect segue. Like I'm so it's really wild because you're doing these 2 bands simultaneously, and it's obviously really cool. I imagine for like your fans at the time were getting into Synesthetic, or they're getting to Danger Radio and discovering both in tandem, and that must have been really like a really fruitful time. And so it seemed like, yes, like after Eric went away for a bit, you really dove into Danger Radio. And from there, was that when you guys kind of got linked up with Photo Finish to put out that first EP?
Yeah, man. So the first EP actually was already done.
Okay.
So we had recorded it with this awesome guy named Tom Faffel, who had a really cool studio in Black Diamond, Washington. So we did that, and we had it already recorded. We'd been touring. We went out with like My American Heart and a bunch of other bands like Lydia, and I can't remember, like lots of bands. So we were just kind of doing the US tour circuit independently for a while. And then Matt Galley put us on Bamboozle. I think this was probably like late 2006, early 2007, and just really liked the band, and we ended up signing a deal with Photo Finish and Atlantic Records and put out the EP because it was already done with them, and just started just really going for it.
And I think this is something I was just doing an interview on Friday with a band that I'm sure you probably toured with, The Hire. Do you remember them?
Oh yeah.
And I was talking to Seth, the singer, the other day. He's a great guy, by the way. And we were chatting, and I was kind of telling him, I was like, I feel like this was one of the most exciting times in this scene because of bands like Danger Radio, The Hire, The Audition, The Cab, like where the scene was incorporating funk and an R&B and all these different sounds. And I'm not just saying because you're on it, but I think Danger Radio did it in the most artistic way, I guess, in a sense. And not to discredit anything, but like the way that Danger Radio was doing it was so, it felt very special. And I'm kind of curious about like that time. Like, were you kind of thinking about sort of like what was kind of going into like incorporating those different influences into your sound, I guess?
Dude, I think it just kind of naturally happened a little bit. Like I said, pretty much everybody, for the most part, everybody in our band was, either in jazz band or orchestra, or at the very least regular band. So, we all had, a good sense of like theory and things like that. And I think, we were young and just wanted to explore a bunch of things. We were obsessed with, Michael Jackson, and also equally as obsessed with like Mars Volta at the time. Just much Mars Volta. So yeah, man, I think, we just really wanted to play around with it a little bit more and just kind of see what happened. Our keyboard player at the time was just an absolute, he was just brilliant. So, a lot of the stuff that you hear on the first EP, well, it's not technically the first EP, but like, on like the more funky EP, like Punch Your Lights Out, all of that stuff, I think he just kind of made up on the fly. And that was just like, oh, these are like the parts now. And dude, he was just ridiculously talented. So, I think it was just a melting pot of all of us putting our influences together and just, just kind of seeing what came out.
And so kind of guide me through this. So like Party Foul is like the breakout single, I guess, for Danger Radio. And if I remember correctly, that video actually got like some airplay, like on like MTV and stuff, or like Fuse and stuff like that, I would imagine. And like I feel like you couldn't really avoid that song like when it came out. And what was sort of like, did you notice things were really picking up like with that song, and like what led you eventually to the full length, obviously?
Yeah, man. I mean, I think that song definitely was like the catalyst for, everything kind of moving forward. We, yeah, like, the label was doing their job and, pushing it out as well as they could. I think like at the time too, probably a little bit confused about what to do with it, especially because, we were, I think we were always the kind of people that were going to like push against the grain a little bit. I think, in a very perfect world, I think Photo Finish wanted us to do whatever we wanted, and Atlantic would have loved for us to release like a We the Kings record.
Sure.
Which is, I think, like what they thought they were signing when they agreed to do it. And we were always just like, no, this is, we don't want to do that. Even then now I'm like, well, we probably should have just listened, but it was like super fun. We were like young and trying to, express ourselves creatively. And yeah, man, that song I definitely think was kind of a really good jumping off point. And I think at the very least, people had fun at our shows. So it was definitely like a really fun song to play live.
Yeah. And then, like what you just mentioned, like, with the label wanting you to write like the more like, let's call it neon emo, like record, or something like that. But I feel like Used and Abused, like your debut full length, kind of toes the line between like the artiness of Punch Your Lights Out and sort of like going into like a little bit of that like neon territory. And I don't mean that like in like a negative connotation. Like, like you listen to a song like Slow Dance with a Stranger, and it's like, okay, like that is a song that you could hear on tour with Boys Like Girls, or like, All Time Low or something like that, and that song actually picked up a lot of traction, too. Like I remember hearing that song. They had a TV at the Northgate Mall, and I remember hearing that, like they were playing it on a TV in like 2008.
Journey.
Journeys. That's right. There we go. Yeah, they played it at Journeys a lot, and like that was a big song for you guys. And like, so what was it kind of like doing that full length? And who did you guys do it with, like a kind of like a pretty prominent producer on that one?
Yeah, man. So we did it with two different producers. It was kind of a crazy thing because, I think that Atlantic stepped in a little bit more, and they were like, we'd like for you to consider writing with other people. So very apprehensively, we were just like, okay. Our first couple sessions were really terrible. Because like I said, I think that I think the label really thought that we were going to be the next Metro Station or like the next We the Kings. So they put us with people that worked on a lot of that stuff. We'd get into the room with them, and quickly they realized that, we didn't want to do what they wanted us to do, and, like vice versa. So it was just kind of this weird thing. And then, we had a little bit broader conversation with our A&R person about the types of music we want to make. And it was definitely a lot more like, we'd like to basically make rockier versions of like Maroon 5 songs.
Yeah.
So yes, so we ended up, weirdly enough, you mentioned The Hire. So we ended up linking up with Mike Green, who produced The Hire. And I think honestly, it was probably after I heard that song. I can't remember what it was called, that big song off that record.
I was just listening to it in the car yesterday, and I can't even tell you what the song's name is, but I know the song. Yeah.
I'm not going to embarrass myself because I don't know all the lyrics, but I can hear it in my head. I'm like, oh, this is like the really funky one. But yeah, man. So, we ended up doing half the record with Mike Green, and then half the record with this guy named Mike Elizondo.
Yeah.
Legends.
Yes.
Done stuff. He did Wake Up Call for Maroon 5, but then also did like a ton of stuff for like Fiona Apple, and like he played like he was like Dr. Dre's like bass player on like The Chronic, and like all his, crazy. He's worked on crazy stuff. He shouldn't have worked with us. He was like way up there. And yeah, and you also mentioned it's so funny because you mentioned Slow Dance with a Stranger, and then you mentioned Boys Like Girls, and we wrote that song with Martin.
Are you kidding me? Wow.
Dude, so it's super random that you would have mentioned those two things together, because I remember Matt Galley hit us up and he was like, hey, Martin wants to get into like co-writing with people. He's never really done it before. Do you want to, give this a try? And yeah, like he ended up like writing that. So we did that one with them, and then Alive for the first time.
Wow. And he's based in Nashville now, right? Like, I think because you're in Nashville, right?
Yeah. I'm in Nashville now. And I think he splits time between here and like a bunch of other places. I feel like half the time I see his posts, or he's in like Utah doing, scaling a mountain or doing something crazy.
Well, that's really cool that he worked, like obviously he's gone on to write a bunch of, huge songs himself. Like, I think he's written for like Avril, like Selena Gomez, Demi Lovato, I think. Okay, so the record comes out, and I'm imagining like you're probably getting some really great tours off this record. Like, I feel like I'm trying to think of maybe if you could rattle off a couple of like those highlights, like off of like the used and abused cycle, like what was sort of going on there.
I mean, there were definitely a lot of bands that we did repeat tours with. We were out a lot with The Main. We were out a lot with Forever the Sickest Kids. The Cab was one that we were constantly out with. Metro Station, we did so many tours with Metro Station. Done dates with Gym Class Heroes. We did, like a full US tour with Plain White Tees. Dude, just a lot of stuff. I mean, we were out literally all the time. I remember, I think the year that Used and Abused came out, our manager at the end of that year was like, you guys did 280 some shows this year. And we were just like, oh my gosh, that's really, well, I feel it in my body.
So you just weren't home at all, like during that era.
Yeah, we were never home. We all lived with our parents because
gonna ask.
We were just like, well, I mean, we're home for like 2 weeks at a time. There's literally no reason for us to ever get an apartment. So our parents were gracious enough to, keep rooms for us. And yeah, we were just road dogs.
Shouts out parents, like straight up, like.
Yeah, dude, I tell so many young artists right now, it's just so funny to me because I lived with my parents until I was like 25, 26. And there are so many young musicians and bands, and they don't want to live at home. There are bands that like are signed to the label that I work for now, and they're like, I can't afford rent. I'm like, dude, move back in with your parents. I'm telling you right now, dude, they're probably going to like you being there. Kind of. They'll pretend that they don't, but they kind of do. And then you don't have to worry about it. You can just be out on the road and just come home and have a place to sleep. And as long as you're not being disrespectful little turds, I'm sure it's fine.
Yeah. I mean, I that just sounds like paradise to me. That sounds great.
I know, dude. Yeah. It's like the only thing we had to worry about was, paying our phone bills.
Yeah.
Our parents' fridge, just rate it and just go.
I love it. So that's happening. And like, Use and Abuse is like getting you on tour with like a lot of really awesome bands. And then if I'm looking at your discography right now, and you did one more record out, or sort of a shorter record, the 7-song record, Nothing's Gonna Hold Us Down. And from there, it was a considerable amount of time too, 2 years between that. And I remember when it came out, what was sort of that era like? Because that sort of, the band did kind of disband like after that, right? Like what was sort of going on?
Dude, it was pretty crazy, man. And so what ended up happening was that, we released Used and Abused, and about, I want to say it was probably, the album came out in July, and right around November, we basically got word that the head of A&R who signed us with like one of the newer A&R guys, like he was retiring and our A&R guy was getting fired. Oh. And, this was happening a lot at the time. There were a lot of, people at labels that were, probably making so much money who were, had been there for a long time, or kind of like letting go or getting forced into retirement. And, we had seen it happen, around the same time to like Play Ready to Play. And, at that point we were smart enough to know that this was like the kiss of death. if your A&R person leaves, you're about to get dropped, essentially.
Well, you were coming in at a weird time. Like, I feel like when Use and Abuse came out was the beginning of the recession, essentially, right? Like the 2008 recession. And I remember listening to interviews with like Buddy from Census Fail being like, we went from getting like these massive guarantees, everything is going great, we're selling records, record industry collapsed in 2008, band members are leaving, A&R people are getting fired. Like, this is all happening on your debut album. That's insane.
Yeah, dude. No, it was really crazy. And honestly, like the album wasn't selling poorly, but it just wasn't, it wasn't selling like, like Riot. Like, we weren't doing like Paramore numbers.
And if it was 2005, it would be doing Paramore numbers. I guarantee.
Yeah, probably. It's like you never really know, but I mean, like, yeah, but yeah, in our minds, it was going like pretty well. And had we just signed solely to photo finish, it probably would have been a little different of a story. We wouldn't have made, we wouldn't have spent like over $100,000 to make the record. But, we probably still would have had a label partner. But yeah, at that point, I think Atlantic was just like, we've already spent so much money on this. Like, sorry, guys, we got to let you go. The next EP that came out, Doghouse, picked it up. And it was honestly just a B-sides from Used and Abused. So like all of those songs had been recorded. I think we went and got a lot of them mixed and then mastered. And Doghouse was just like, like, we love you guys. We've known you forever. Let us put this out for you. And we were just like, okay, let's do it. But yeah, man, it was kind of one of those things where, we had talked to a couple different bands and everybody just kind of said the same thing. It's like getting a new record deal after you've just been dropped from a major. It's very unlikely. And, I think that, yeah, that's still, I think to this day, something that holds true. Cause yeah, like those labels put a lot of money into stuff. And I think people get like scared that, well, if they spent this amount of money, like we're not going to be able to break this artist if they couldn't do it. Which is, like a weird mentality, but, just something that, it just happens. And it was happening a lot.
Yeah. And was this sort of leading to like the disbandment, like at this time, just like it was just getting unsustainable sort of, or was it just sort of like you had just been beat around and, just kicked around enough that it was just sort of like, let's take a break?
Yeah, exactly, man. I think that it was just kind of one of those things where, touring was also getting really expensive. We had come off a tour not long before that with Choose What We Aim For. And we were out there with like Ascenders and a bunch of other bands. And, gas was, like $4 or $5 a gallon, kind of like it just was, or is now.
Which was more like $8 back then. Like, to be honest, like.
Exactly. But yeah, man, it was getting harder to tour. And I think, we had a lot of different conversations with, a lot of other labels. And I think we just kind of come to the realization that it was going to be, unless we like basically changed our name and started completely over, like the likelihood of us finding another partner to release music with was slim to none. And at the time, I think it was a lot harder to be a successful independent artist. It's definitely, there's so many resources now. Like back then you couldn't even get your song into like the iTunes store without signing like a distro deal. It's like, I think like, I can't remember when TuneCore started, but I feel like it was definitely, we were a little bit before that.
And so like during that time though, so it sounded like these were all like external pressures. Like was generally like, were y'all still like amicably on good terms, like good friends and everything, like throughout it all?
We're all still good friends. I mean, like we are all still very, very good friends. Like there was no big fight. In fact, like we literally, we decided to all get together, got into like our friend's living room, and we're pretty much just like, hey, like, I think this is over. And it was like really hard, dude. I mean, I'm not gonna lie. Like I'm a total weeper. So I mean, like I fucking bawled my eyes out. I was like,
sure, yeah.
Devastated. I was like, I've been doing this with you guys since like the 8th grade. I can't believe we're giving up. Like I was so heartbroken.
That's gonna make me cry, dude. Oh my God.
It was by far, and honestly, it's still I can't even like I'll still text Marvin every once in a while, and there's like one or two videos, like Danger Radio videos on YouTube that exist, and every once in a while I just be like, I'm gonna watch this, and I watch it and I still cry. I'm like, oh, I still like bawl my eyes out. I'm like, I miss you guys.
Well, does that mean that why don't you guys get back together and do some shows?
Dude, we've talked about it. It's a little bit difficult. Nico especially has like a crazy schedule. He's like, he's a producer, writer, signed to Pulse, lives in LA, and he's worked on, stuff for, I feel like recently he's done a lot of stuff with Mike Green for like Set It Off, and has cuts with Bieber and stuff. And then spends half of his time in Finland with his wife. So it's really more than anything just getting his schedule aligned. But we've got a group chat, and every once in a while we'll talk about it and just be like, why don't we do this? But it's like just really hard to get everybody's schedules lined up. And Elon's the same way, man. If you watch like the latest, I think like Macklemore did something recently with like KEXP or something like that, where they played like through the new song, and Elon's playing guitar because Elon works on a bunch of the Macklemore stuff.
No shit. Wow.
Yeah, so everybody's we're all on good terms. We love each other dearly. It's nothing, bad, or nothing bad happened other than the fact that we just felt like it was time to, just to close that door.
I think you guys could totally come back if you ever found the time. I think when we were young, 2023 would be pretty sick. I think if Danger Radio came back, that'd be cool.
Oh, dude, yeah, man. That would be really sick.
If I just a side tangent, if I had a choice to put together like a hometown reunion show, it would be Danger Radio headlining. Then we got Fermaphany right below it. And then we got Fall of Troy. Then we got Gatsby's.
Oh, man.
Then we've got Wild Orchid Children.
Oh, dude, yeah.
Yeah, we got that. And then we've got fucking Tyson.
Wow, dude. That'd be a crazy.
And Synesthetic. Sorry. Then we'll get Synesthetic there too. Yeah.
That would definitely be an insane show, man. I would, yeah, and I feel like we'd have to do it at Market, Showbox Market, because
100%.
Yeah, man. No, I've definitely. I've talked to a couple of those bands before just to kind of see if anyone's doing anything. And I know, like, dude, Daphne Loves Derby they're just now starting to do some reunion shows too, which is really fun to see. And I'm sure they'll do great because people love Daphne.
They do. They really do. We for the AP list that we featured Synesthetic on, Daphne's on that list as well too. And it was just becoming like a trend. We're like, what was up with people in fucking Seattle just writing these amazing songs on acoustic guitar, and just literally that was it. Like, it was just like,
we were also unknowingly depressed because we lived in the dark.
It's so true, dude. My girlfriend, she's from like Thousand Oaks, but moved to Long Island in like high school time, and so got to like live in the Long Island kind of world. And I brought her to Seattle 2 years in a row for Christmas time, and she's like, I don't know how you did it. Like, I don't know how you lived here.
It gets dark at like 3.
Yeah, it gets dark at 3. It's wet, and there's the Seattle freeze. Everyone's like a little kind of rude to each other, like anywhere you go.
Man, I've got a couple friends of mine that are still, in Seattle in their 30s trying to date, and everybody's just like, dude, it's literally impossible. No. Like, it's never gonna happen. No one wants to talk to you. If you go to a bar and try to talk to somebody you don't know, it's really awkward and terrible. And it's just so funny, man, because I never had to date there, but I feel like it's like a newer thing, because I just remember I don't remember Seattle being like that, but I feel like maybe it's just as we get older we just get more grumpy,
and maybe it's more of like the tech boom too has just kind of changed everything there too, which
yeah, it's definitely, Seattle's a much different place than it was when I was growing up.
Yeah, most definitely. So I feel like we've been going for a while, and I apologize, but so the band, Danger Radio goes on, can we call it hiatus? Like, essentially, I feel like breakup is so mean sounding.
Yeah. So we essentially went on hiatus.
Okay, so y'all went on hiatus, and Eric comes back from his missionary trip, right? So you start doing more synesthetic stuff. Like, actually, I feel like you were already starting to do some during that time, right? Like, or my timing off?
Yeah, we were starting to do a little bit. Like, it was actually really funny. So Eric comes back. We're getting ready to do our first trip ever to the UK, like Danger Radio. We got invited over there to do some dates with Forever Six Kids. Eric literally just got home, and then we were leaving for the UK in a month. And I was like, dude, Eric, do you want to come with us? Like, we're going to need a merch person anyway. Just come hang out. And he was just like, yeah, dude. So he just like literally basically got off the plane after being gone for 2 years and then we took him to the UK. And then shortly after that run, we ended up, disbanding or taking a break. And then Eric and I started to do like a lot more music. So we started touring again. We started writing and put out a new record and did all of that stuff kind of as like the Danger Radio stuff was fading out. We started ramping stuff up because, I had a lot of time.
Yeah, absolutely. And so like during that time too, like kind of take me through that, because I feel like you've had such a just sprawling career. You've had so many different chapters and everything. So you're still in Seattle at this point, like when
Yeah.
Okay, so are you doing other stuff within the Seattle scene, maybe separate from the band as well too, or like the scene aesthetic and whatnot? Like, what was sort of your vibe at that time?
No, at that time it was really just that time it was pretty much just the aesthetics. So I mean, I was working part-time jobs at, Starbucks and Jimmy John's and doing whatever I had to do to, make some money when I wasn't on tour. And then we'd leave for tour and come home and write. And yeah, I mean, we just kind of did that grind for a while. And then we did our last like official tour in like the summer of 2012.
That sounds right. Yeah.
Yeah, we were out with the Rocket Summer in States. And yeah, basically right after that tour is when I moved to Nashville.
And I feel like Nashville, and I could be wrong, but I feel like Nashville has just become this place where so many people from this scene have migrated. Like, I feel like, is Dan from this Providence there now too? Like, I believe, or he was at one point.
Yeah, Dan was here for a while. He was, Dan was here for a while. He's back in Seattle now. I think living in Kenmore. And then like a bunch of the dudes from Cartel are here.
The Audition. I know Danny was in Nashville.
Yeah, Danny was in Nashville. Like a bunch of the dudes from Yellow Card, some of the dudes from Saves the Day, Justin from Brighton, who now plays for Dan and Shay. I mean, like, yeah, it's definitely, dude, there are so many scene emo people.
I want to ask if you know two of my friends actually out there. Do you know Jake? He goes by the name Fangs.
Yeah, Jake Germany.
Yeah, that's my boy. Love that guy. Do you know Sam Tenez?
Oh, dude, yes.
That's my boy.
Sam blows my mind, dude. That dude is next level talented.
It's scary. He was in town a couple weeks ago. And he was like, yo, I'm doing this session with K-Flay. Do you want to like come? And I was like, sure. Like, I just like sat in on it. And it literally, he can come up with a melody and it literally like a perfect top 40 ready chorus in like 2 seconds, it seems like. And just like, I'm just sitting there like in a corner, just hitting my jewel, just like watching magic being created. I'm like, hi, K-Flay. Like, what's up? Insane.
Like, yeah, Sam is so insanely talented. I mean, he's just one of those people, he's a pro. He just goes in, he knows the assignment, goes for it, and he's just very talented. He's just one of those people. I mean, he's just like very playful with his words, and I don't know, dude. That dude's talent far exceeds anything. Like,
I love him. He's a silly man. I love him. And so did you go out to Nashville essentially to like join the songwriting like circle essentially, like out in Nashville? Like, was that sort of the goal?
No, like the goal was always to work in the music industry. So, I mean, I had a buddy of mine who was also moving, and he just kind of asked me, he's like, hey, I don't know what I'm going to do there yet. I think I maybe want to start a record label or do something. I'd love if you came and help me out with that. So, he offered me the world's worst salary. It was too embarrassing to even say.
It's okay.
And then, he just, picked up my stuff and his big budget truck that he was moving all of his stuff over. And then we just moved. And then shortly after, I think probably only 3 or 4 months in, we ended up partnering with David Conway over at Heart 8 Working Group.
Yeah.
He manages like Never Shout Never. He manages Tate McRae, and has been in the music industry for a long time. Also, just a really brilliant person. So we kind of started this singles driven label together, and I was doing a bunch of creative direction stuff for that, and the goal for me was always to just to work for a label and get in that side of things so that I can help artists maybe make their dreams come true.
And was it sort of culture shock at first, like coming to Nashville, like being from Seattle, like to a degree?
Oh yeah, dude. I definitely, especially back then, there were so little restaurants, there were so little bars. I didn't know that many people there at the time because not a lot of people had moved there yet. So yeah, I just got there and immediately it was just like, what did I do? It definitely felt like a huge, huge mistake. But yeah, man, over the course of, like the last 10 years, it's like, I don't even recognize the city anymore. It's so different. And like you said earlier, everybody moved here.
So you get into like the label side of things, and like that's how I guess essentially we connected is through my brother works at Network Records and you're working with Mokita, correct? Like, and you're co-managing Mokita?
Yeah. So I co-manage Mokita with David Conway.
That is so cool. Like, and what an incredible new artist for one too. Like that you guys like, so were you guys just like, you saw Mokita and you're like instantly sort of like, we gotta get behind this. Like,
dude, it was honestly the craziest thing. So, we started working with him when he thought he wanted to write country music. So he came to town, and I think was taking a stab at writing, and we knew immediately that he was just, I had met him because we were going to sign him to our label, but under maybe some sort of publishing deal kind of situation so that we could help him get his foot in the door. And then immediately realized just how talented he was. He pretty much figured out immediately that he did not want to write country music. That wasn't his thing. And started sending us all of these just beats and things that he was making. And I think initially we were just like, oh, maybe we could do some sort of DJ thing where other people sing on the tracks. So we did one of those that did really well. And then he started sending us, demos with him singing on, and we were just like, dude, what the hell? Are you serious?
yeah,
you've got the voice of an angel. Why are we looking for other people to sing songs? This is ridiculous. So yeah, we helped him kind of launch the projects. We kind of went through all the names options with him and figured out the sound and got him signed to a label, which at the time was a dance label. We did 10 songs with them, quickly realized that wasn't the direction, and, went independent for a while. And yeah, it's been especially on the streaming side, a really successful, fun project. And then finally, ended up landing a deal over at Network, and it's been great.
That's so cool. And I guess my next question is, obviously now, your main day job is working in the behind the scenes of music. And I've always been curious, asking other artists this question. I've asked several different artists this question. I never had any success with music as an artist, but I still loved playing music. But I noticed when I worked in the music industry for the first time, it was kind of weird seeing how the sausage is made, essentially, and I feel, what I'm talking about. And sometimes, at least for me in the beginning, it took some of the magic out of it for me a little bit in the beginning, and slowly it came back. But I was wondering, Was it ever like a weird transition, sort of being on that other side of music? Was there different things that you learned where you're like, oh shit, like that's why this was happening when I was an artist, and like now I get it? Or like, was there something that you were just like, oh, this is actually really important? I never really like knew, I don't know, like the importance of having like a really good booking agent or something like that. Like, I don't know, like,
No, no, for sure. Yeah, I mean, I definitely feel like now there's definitely a greater understanding of how things work. But weirdly enough, I feel like there were that I know a lot of bands who, after like getting dropped and things didn't work out, like it's so easy. It's so easy to point the finger at the record label. But man, I was never. I think for me, I always looked at it as I'm super grateful for the opportunities that I had gotten, and had I not signed to a major, like none of these things would have been possible. But I think like now, especially, yeah, there are definitely a lot of things that go into releasing an album, or like even like a single or anything, or just like, having an artist be successful in general, that, it is very eye-opening and a lot of work. So, I mean, yeah, it's crazy. I don't think it, yeah, it's just a lot that goes into it. But, it's definitely been a very eye-opening experience for me, at least, to be a part of that and be a part of A&Ring records and finding producers and all that stuff. That's been really fun. But yeah, also, yeah, I don't know.
so what's sort of like the most fulfilling part, would you say? Like, what's like what, like every day that you wake up, like what are you the most excited to work on, like within your career? Like, would you say?
You know what? I will say, like, the thing that I've enjoyed the most is definitely like the A&R side of things.
Yeah.
Just kind of being the matchmaker a little bit, just kind of listening to somebody, it's like demos, or listening to like, their music, and then actually talking to them about what their goals are and what they would like their stuff to sound like, and then finding kind of the missing pieces that to help them put it together. And then just getting to hear it at the end of the day. It's so often now, you'll put somebody in to write with a producer, or somebody in to write with a writer, and you get a demo at the end of the day. And it's just so crazy to just think, it's like, oh, I put these two people together and this song is incredible. Oh my gosh. So that's probably been the most fun part for me. But yeah, it's just just working directly with the artists and trying to make sure that we are doing everything we can so that their vision for what they want their record to be like comes through. Because I think that's really ultimately like the most important part, and something that I personally just didn't really get to experience. So, like we didn't have that much of a say on our album artwork, or that much to say on like a lot of things. So, just having like more conversations and just making sure that they're getting what they need out of it. But also, there's part of working in the music industry, like, and I was definitely one of these artists, I didn't always know what was right. So kind of there's a part of working in the industry that's also kind of convincing people. So I mean, I always tell people, especially on like the management side, like your job is just to convince this person to do things that are good for them that they don't want to do.
No, that's so interesting, and like I think it's so special, like when like an artist can be the A&R. Like I feel like that's just got to be such an incredible strength that must make the bands that you are A&Ring for like feel so much more safe and like sort of taken care of. Like you're not going to put them in a situation that they're going to be unhappy.
No, definitely. I mean, I think that, I always try and approach it in a way where, I really want to understand what they want and try as hard as possible to give that to them.
Absolutely. And I kind of want to bring that now to like sort of just where we are today, like to kind of close it out. Like, so obviously you are still doing music like at a really high rate right now too. Like, I mean, like, so you just put out the first two Shallowdiver singles, which are both incredible. I think this project is really, really, really special. And I'm kind of curious, like, what you can kind of tell me about this project, and maybe, with your other project, your other musical duo, and just sort of like what's been kind of going on with that.
Yeah, man. So, I think, yeah, with it, I mean, honestly, the Shallowdiver stuff has been probably the most fun I've had working on music in a long time. Um, with some of the other projects that I work on, like, I've got a couple, I've got Secret Twin, which we just launched, and then this like indie pop thing called Captain, and then another one called like Prince of Spain. And a lot of this stuff that I'm doing for that is like writing a lot of it for TV and film. So I've been lucky enough that I've gained a pretty okay understanding of that world, and just kind of every year build out a catalog of new stuff that all kind of sounds a little different, that we can send over to just music supervisors that are working on shows and commercials. And that's kind of a lot of what those projects are. I mean, I've had a lot of fun making them and do them all weirdly with like the same person. This guy named Jacob Vanyo, who's incredibly talented. But yes, so we do a lot of music together. And then the Shallowdiver stuff has been like really fun because, for so long over the course of the last 10 years or so, I think the primary goal for me in making music was like, oh, well, it's got to work for TV and film. So it's got to fit in this very specific box, and like the lyrics have to be a certain way and all these things. And with this new project, Marvin and I, who started it, we were just like, dude, it's so funny that our entire careers, the music that we've always gone back to is, stuff like Thursday and Thrice and, like Under Oath and Silverstein and all this stuff. And we were just like, why did we never make music like this?
Yeah.
Like, it's still like, when I pull up my Spotify Wrapped at the end of the year, it's like, oh, it's all angsty emo stuff. It's like, so, we were just kind of like, dude, let's start something. So we started working on some music together. We brought our buddy Lincoln in, who played guitar for Scene Aesthetic for a while. And yeah, man, it's just been like such a rewarding, fun thing because there's really, it's like a no pressure kind of thing. We're just literally just making music in our heads. It's like, would we have listened to this when we were 15, 16? And would we have loved it? And at the end of the day, if we write a song and the answer is yes, then we're just like, great, this is perfect then. Because I think like a lot of it is just, just scratching that itch of, still to this day, my favorite albums, when I was 16 are still my favorite albums now. So it's, let's make some music.
I love that. And you're capturing it in a really meaningful way. Like, it doesn't sound like you are just trying to make something that just sounds nostalgic for nostalgia's sake. Like, to me, these are songs that would stand up really well then and stand up really well today. Like, which is really, really cool. And especially like with Benchwarmer, like that main vocal hook that you do in the chorus is like, that's a big hook. Like, that's a really big hook, like for that kind of song. And like, so with it, you mentioned like there's no pressure with it, but like, has there been any like idea of like, do you have the itch to play some shows with it?
Yeah, no, we talk about it literally every day.
Okay, cool.
We all have the itch real bad.
Okay, it seems like it. You guys seem like you're having so much fun with it.
We're having a really good time. We definitely want to play shows, so it's just kind of like figuring out, what the right approach for that is. So right now, I've been hitting up a couple of people that I know are coming to town early next year that I'm just like, well, if you need an opener, think I know somebody. So yeah, just kind of trying to explore like those kinds of situations and see what kind of favors we can pull and just have a good time, man. I mean, I think that at the end of the day, even if there was some opportunities to do a little bit of touring or something, that could definitely be something that we would explore as well. I think right now we're just having so much fun making music, and I do think that playing shows is the next part of that, and I think it will just be a blast because I mean, like, that's it's just kind of mosh pit music. So let's go.
Are you gonna get your mic twirls already, like your Adam Lazar mic twirls going
around the neck?
Around the neck, oh yeah.
Hang upside down from some rafters and stuff, and just play guitar. Just really go for it, dude. Yeah, I mean, I can't guarantee that I won't really hurt myself. I'm I'm no young person anymore. But no, it's definitely that's definitely a goal for sure, is to eventually play some shows.
That's so exciting. And like with that, I brought up, the potential of like if there would ever be a Danger Radio reunion, like has there been talk of like doing like some more scene aesthetic stuff possibly?
Yeah, man. I mean, all the time. Eric, he just had his second kid, so he's a little bit, his life is, we have to. There's not a lot of planning that can happen because every single day is like so different for him. So it's so different from when I do like writing sessions with the Shallowdiver guys, because we know it's like, oh, every Wednesday at like 6 o'clock, like let's hop on Zoom and like write a song. With him, it's like he just never knows, what the day,
Sure,
what kind of things the day might bring. So it's a little bit more difficult, but we've definitely have like several. I mean, we've got like so much music written that we just haven't released yet, and we've gotten a couple. We were offered So What festival this last year. We couldn't do it because Eric knew that he was having his baby like weeks before that, so he was just like, I can't risk that. But like we're definitely, I definitely think that there'll be some scene aesthetic stuff in the near future. We're already kind of talking about some stuff for early next year, but we'll see.
that is so exciting. And now, I just want to leave it with like one final question, if that's cool.
Oh, of course, man.
What were the three? Would you say are like the three most important like records to you that like sort of shaped you?
Oh man, that is a really, really good question. So I will say, I guess first and foremost would probably be Enema of the State. I think like, just because that's kind of, I mean, that's definitely where my love and for that style of music just kind of started. But also, I mean, that's the whole reason I started a band, was just, let's play this talent show. Let's play this song off this amazing record. And I liked Blink-182 before that, but I think that hearing that record really, at the age that I was, really sparked something in me that made me think maybe this is what I wanted to do. After that, I think would be Gatsby's American Dream, Ribbons and Sugar.
Yeah,
For sure. Very, very much up there. I mean, just they were just one of my absolute favorite bands growing up. And I think I go back and listen to that record still to this day all the time and just think, dude, these are just incredible songs. Like, I don't even, from a songwriting perspective, everything's wrong. Like, but somehow it's just like, it's just perfect.
it's genius.
It's so good. And then after that, man, I mean, I think that the album that really comes up for me after that is Say It Like You Mean It by Starting Line. Dude, there was just something about that record when it came out, and it just blew my mind. I was just like, this is perfection. Like Kenny's vocals, everything. I mean, it's really funny. There are very little people that I get starstruck in front of, and Kenny Vasoli still to this day is like one of those people. Like, I don't know what it is. He just makes me nervous. But like, I mean, I was hanging out at like emo night, and he was in Nashville, and he was performing, and he was backstage, and I would just like, I'm out of the corner of my eye and think in my head and like, I should go talk to you, dude. I know you're a nice person. But then I'm like, no, dude, I can't do it.
I hate that feeling. Like when you're like, this person means so much to me. I really want to say something, but you're like, I can't. Like,
I know what I'm going to say. And I've already said it to him. This is the thing too, is I ran into him at South by a couple of years ago, and he was playing a Vacationer set at the Fender House. And I literally like saw him out of the corner of my eye. He like walked past me, and I stood there for a second. I was like, am I going to say something to you? Because I feel like I should go say something to you. And I was just like, fuck it. I just ran and was just like, dude, I'm so sorry to stop you, but I just want to let you know, man, Starting Line was so important to me. And just like, I don't know, just like, I just love you so much and love your music and everything you've ever done. And I just think you're great. And it was honestly not a very, it was just, he was so nice, but I don't know what I was expecting. I think at that moment I was just like, oh, like maybe we'll be friends. But it was like so like short lived. And afterwards I was like, like why is that what I said? Why did I say all those things? Why couldn't have I come off cooler?
I'll leave you with one story really quick. You know, we were at FYF Festival a couple years ago, before it was over, and we were backstage in the artist area, and it was like my brother and a couple other of his friends and stuff, and fucking Post Malone's there, Zane Lowe's there, Ollie Sykes from Bring Me the Horizons there, all these huge people, but fucking Mike Kinsella from American Football walks in, and I shit you not, I'm with a bunch of other guys that are probably like their late 20s, early 30s. They are literally like doing the "we're not worthy" to like Mike Kinsella and just punishing him. Like, and I'm just standing there, and I was like, this is my one moment to be cool. Like, they are like being such goobers, and I was like, yo, I really fuck with this. Like, it was like this deep cut from Owen, like his like side project, and he was like, yo, good looks, man. Like, it was like, it's like the one moment I ever got to feel cool, like being completely starstruck, like probably gonna piss my pants, but like
I would have pissed my pants too. It's all good, man.
So good. Well, dude, this has been amazing. Like, you know, thank you so much for taking the time, and obviously I'm sure we'll be, you know, keeping in touch quite a bit.
I hope this wasn't too painful for you.
Dude, not at all. I was just gonna say, man, I hope your first podcast was good, man. I mean, like, this is I love this. Like, I do interviews probably like 5 to 10 times a week, and I never do them as podcasts. Like, I just do them editorially. And it's really nice when we can do something like this, where it's just this really nice long form conversation.
No, just hanging out.
Just hanging out. No word count. Like, it's great. It's amazing.
Well, dude, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Hell yeah, dude. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday. And yeah, man, we'll talk soon. Peace. There you have it. Another episode in the books. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you enjoyed this episode, please share it with your friends, family, and enemies. Additionally, feel free to leave us a review wherever you listen to this podcast. It goes a long way, and it helps us keep the show rolling. You can follow us on Instagram at EMOlition Derby to stay up to date on upcoming episodes, Q&As, exclusive content, and more. Thanks again, and we will see you next time.